Surprise, surprise, we're back here again. My name is Hell, welcome back to Sydney, which is also coincidentally Hell. And as per usual, before we launch in, today's video is sponsored by Established Titles. Now, if you've been here for any length of time, you will probably know that I don't particularly enjoy the social commentary around domestic violence and male-female interactions. It's usually marked by discussions about toxic masculinity, how men cannot be victims, and how women can't be aggressors. So of course, in my travels of the internet, I was surprised to find out that there has been a slight shift in the way that people were discussing the events surrounding the new developments with Amber Heard and her ex-husband, Jack Sparrow.
Savvy.
More often than not, when I find myself down rabbit holes relating to male-female interactions, it's typically one-sided, in favor of us birthing people. So color me green and call me a candlestick. The support for Johnny Depp is genuinely surprising to me. Or maybe it's just that people really hate Amber Heard. Who knows? Maybe we all died in a meteor strike and this is limbo. No! That is confusing messaging. You always say that this is hell. Be consistent. Now, we have covered the Amber Heard situation a little bit over the last few years, and let me tell you now, it's been a wild ride. And because women like this just can't seem to disappear into the abyss like we'd hope, this story continues on. And as of this week, Amber Heard and Jack Sparrow are in court again. Amber is being sued for defamation for an op-ed she wrote in 2018 for the Washington Post where she effectively painted Captain Jack as an abuser. But as more and more information comes to light throughout this court case, it's becoming clear that Amber Heard and her behavior is a symptom of a society that has encouraged and rewarded women who behave this way. Since day one, I have had a lot of opinions about this, and it's not because I have some keen interest in the lives of celebrities. Let me assure you, I do not. But it's because a lot of men can not only relate to this situation, but have been through the court system with issues just like this one. And until recently, most of our societal responses and perceptions have favored women. As I've said time and time again, it's pretty clear that the way that we look at male and female abusers is entirely different. And as I've also said, viewing men as the universal perpetrator and women as the universal victim is problematic. That it has a lot of serious implications. And I really think that the Amber-Johnny situation completely exemplifies this. Society has, in some ways, conditioned us to think that when an accusation is brought against a man, it's probably true. And women, by and large, can't really be instigators or aggressors in domestic violence or general violence situations. My mum once chased my dad with a broom. Or was it a rake? This applies to mental abuse as well, which we typically overlook. And that was even put in the spotlight recently when it came to the incident with Jada Pinkett Smith and her husband Will Smith and one slap-a-doo. And while I'm sure that many of you don't personally care about any of these people, and honestly, I don't blame you, I continue to believe that amplifying the experiences of overpaid baby people allows our wider society to see that the pre-existing assessments we have of men and women aren't always right. And it is entirely possible that a man can be a victim and a woman can be a life-destroying succubus. All in all, it's fair to say that Captain Jack is not a faultless, perfect person, that much is clear, but it is incredibly sad and disappointing that not only his life, but his entire career has been upended by false domestic violence allegations and accusations, when we know, and it's become very clear, that his ex-wife was in fact the primary aggressor. And for good measure, in the Will Smith case, it's been very sad to watch a man be crushed from the inside out in real time.
So, Will, you know Esther Perel is coming to the table. She's going to be at the red table. Would you say she has been instrumental in you and I redefining our relationship?
I would say don't just start filming me without asking me.
Oh my goodness.
If you could film me.
Esther, come help us again, please. I'm still dealing with foolishness.
But you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
Definitely the sort of people you want to babysit your children. But before we get into all of this, and God, there is a lot to discuss, and you once again board my hell gondola and snuggle up with some little snackies, let's hear from today's sponsor, Established Titles. You might be a disinteresting, run-of-the-mill person intent on living a boring life. Hey, but you don't have to be. Don't be a sir or a ma'am, be a lord or a lady, which is where Established Titles comes in. Established Titles is a great initiative based on a historic Scottish custom where landowners are referred to as lairds and ladies. You buy as little as 1 square foot of dedicated land on a private estate in Scotland, and you get this fancy certificate naming you a lord or lady.
I sleep with it. I like to know I matter.
You even get your own unique plot number on your certificate so you can see the exact location of your land. The title can be used on your credit card, plane tickets, even your dating profile.
This is assuming that you're still trying to find someone on Tinder, but we know who uses Tinder. Not someone who's worthy of a lord!
For every order, the Established Titles team commits to planting a tree to help the baby animals, the hairy coos, and preserve the woodlands and biodiversity of Scotland, as well as supporting other afforestation and conservation efforts. So if you want to get in touch with your Scottish roots, give your wife a nice gift, or you just love hairy coos, click the link in the description to check out Established Titles Mother's Day sale. On top of that, you can get an additional 10% off any purchase when you use discount code Sydney. Now, in the last little while, Amber posted a note to her social media saying that she's going to be offline for several weeks because her ex-husband is suing her for defamation. She says that she never named him, but rather wrote about the price women pay for speaking out against men in power. I continue to pay that price, but hopefully when this case concludes, I can move on and so can Johnny. Speaking of prices to pay, I think it's worth reiterating that Amber set her ex-husband's career on fire. As far as Hollywood goes, he is completely radioactive, or he has been in days gone by. He's forever known as an abuser, and even lost a libel case with a newspaper that referred to him as a wife basher because the judge thought the claims against him were substantial. Justice. Also doubly worth noting, according to the internet and documents that it dug up, apparently Amber didn't mention her ex-husband in the article she wrote because her lawyers forced her to take out any reference to their marriage. 2 years ago, I sought a restraining order against my then husband, only to feel the full force of our culture's wrath for women who speak out. We know who the article's about, Amber. Anyone with a retina can see. Anyone with a retina can see. Okay, Sydney. What's a retina?
Heard did not use Mr. Depp's name in the op-ed. She didn't have to, because the evidence will show that everyone in Hollywood knew exactly what she was talking about.
So a lot of this boils down to the fact that Amber Heard has been able to present herself as a victim, write about it, speak about it, and operate with relative impunity for the last few years. And before we get into the testimony and statements made during this court case, I want to highlight that this trial is about more than two celebrities going head to head. It's about whether society cares enough to hold a woman accountable for false accusations of everything from sexual abuse to domestic violence. If a man can get any sense of empathy and support for being a victim himself of domestic violence, and if he can also get some sort of justice for having his reputation, career, and family savaged by the aforementioned false accusations. So far, the answer to all of that is no. No, he cannot. Now, during this trial, it has become clear so far, only a week in, that Amber Heard has been a succubus on more than one occasion. Captain Jack's lawyer said that in 5 decades, not one other woman has accused him of being abusive.
No one had ever, in 5 decades, no one had ever accused Johnny Depp of being abusive of any kind with a woman.
Amber, on the other hand, has been accused of doing things in the past. In recent testimony, Amber's former assistant said that she would spit on her, would berate her, even said that her own mother is scared of her.
Screaming over the phone. She screamed at me once in person, multiple times screaming at me over the phone. Barrages of abusive text messages, day and night, a lot of them in the middle of the night. I think you're aware. I think between 2 and 4 a.m. the barrage would start. That's what I'd wake up to. It's what I've seen, the interactions between the two of them when her mother was still alive, and the fact that her mother was terrified of her.
Are mothers supposed to be scared of their children? I thought this only applied when we were teenagers and in danger of becoming purginat. The lawyers also noted what the couple were like when they were together, frequently being separated because of their intense fights.
You're going to hear evidence that when Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard traveled together, his team routinely had to book an extra room for him so that he had somewhere to go when Ms. Heard became enraged. You'll hear from other witnesses, including Mr. Depp and Ms. Heard's marriage counselor. Her name is Dr. Laurel Anderson, who perceived Ms. Heard as the aggressor in the relationship. Ms. Heard as the aggressor in the relationship. The one who would strike Mr. Depp to try to keep him from leaving.
On the other side, Amber's team said that Captain Jack burned his own cheek with a cigarette. What? For context, Johnny made this accusation from a situation in 2015 where Amber allegedly threw a bottle at him, cut part of his finger off, and put a cigarette out on his face. This sounds healthy. Her team also alleges that during the same fight in 2015, Johnny penetrated her with a liquor bottle.
So as you go through those 3 days of Australia, some pretty horrendous things happen to her. He rips off her nightgown. He has her jammed up against a bar. He has hurled bottles and bottles at her. He has dragged her across the floor on the broken bottles and the liquor. He tells her he's going to kill her. He hates her. He's pounding at her, and then he penetrates her with a liquor bottle.
Overpaid baby people! Penetrated her with a liquor bottle. Why does this sound so familiar to me? Wait a minute. Repeatedly shoves a wine bottle into her lady bits to make it look like she's been assaulted. This is a storyline from Gone Girl. Gotcha. Amber appears to really like taking other people's stories. Remember the personal assistant I just mentioned? Yeah, apparently she thinks that Amber took her assault story and passed it off as her own. To my utter shock and dismay, I discovered that Ms. Heard had in fact stolen my sexual violence conversation with her and twisted it into her own story to benefit herself. This, of course, caused me extreme distress and outrage that she would dare to attempt to use the most harrowing experience of my life as her own narrative. What is happening here? Goes without saying, but we probably shouldn't have built an environment where it's advantageous to use someone else's trauma and story to advance your own narrative and agenda, and directly rip off the storylines of movies and still somehow be believed. And while parts of this testimony have been very, very challenging to swallow, other parts have been unbelievably sad and demonstrate how abuse can be cycled and perpetuated. Johnny's sister, Christy Dembrowski, what is with these names? Seriously. Said that the children grew up in a home where their mother was physically and emotionally abusive to the family. She added that despite the alleged abuse, Johnny never hit their mother and would often just leave the room when emotions ran high. In his relationship with Amber, Captain Jack would also try to escape. Amber would berate him, scream at him, he would try to appease, but it would always happen again. He started coping with Miss Heard the same way he did as a child. Try to get away, but his trying to leave would enrage Miss Heard. Miss Heard equated violence and anger with passion, according to his lawyer. She would apologize with poetic excuses, as if the violence just proved how fierce and overwhelming her love for him was. Let me just add something real quick. I don't often try to offer life advice. If you guys want to eat bees and fly kites in thunderstorms, you do you. But I will say this. If someone is horrible to you and they try to justify that by saying that it's because of the intensity of their love, I want you to get up and run away, far away, into Narnia and across the sea. Because let me tell you now, violence is not passion. And love is not a justification for legitimately disgusting toxic behavior. That is a big bag of nope from me. Anyway, all of this was also corroborated by the couple's marriage counselor. She said that there was mutual abuse in the relationship, although I'll note that she adds Johnny denies being violent and never adds what kind of abuse he allegedly perpetrated. She also said both parties could initiate fights, as Heard feared abandonment from Depp. She also said Depp had not been violent with other partners over the prior 20 to 30 years. She also confirms that when Johnny would try to leave, Amber would hit him.
And how did you come to the understanding that on some occasions Miss Heard physically abused Mr. Depp?
Miss Heard reported that.
What did Miss Heard report to you?
That it was a point of pride, two things. It was a point of pride to her if she felt disrespected to initiate a fight, and was her father had beaten her, she was not going to. And the second, one is what she reported to me, which is if he was going to leave her to de-escalate from the fight, she would strike him to keep him there. She would rather be in a fight than have him leave.
In the same session, she said Amber talked about a strategy for getting out of the relationship. Her therapy notes state, will she have advantage if she leaves him, but files with police for abuse first? The counselor said that on December 17th, 2015, Heard came to her office and showed her bruises under her eyes. Of course, this is all speculation on my behalf, but I find it very interesting that a therapist would note that they know, and perhaps their client knows, that it is advantageous to file a police report about abuse as they're exiting a relationship. It goes to show that these women know false claims can so very quickly obliterate a man's life. And other people have made these claims about this specific situation in the past, saying that Amber only did this to get ahead in Hollywood and the like, which is like a whole other little bag of on its own. The thing that makes me extra sad about this situation is that Johnny appears to have replaced an abusive mom with an abusive wife. And I can only imagine how traumatizing that must be, to go through a childhood with an abusive parent, to then grow up and marry somebody who is equally as abusive, who then drags your name through the mud, destroys your career, and eviscerates whatever good life you had. I mean, that has to be completely crushing. I maintain that a huge problem here is that we have constructed a society that effectively rewards lying and victims of abuse. And the reason this case matters, like I said, is because it yet again asks if we will extend to a man the same empathy we constantly extend to women. It also asks if we'll condemn a woman in the same way we constantly condemn men. Obviously, the only people who know the true goings-on of this relationship are Johnny and Amber. Maybe the rest of us are completely wrong, who is to say? But I know that plenty of men experience situations like this. Plenty of men have had their lives obliterated through accusations, false accusations, and most of them never end up going to court. I know a lot of men can relate to what Johnny is going through, whether Johnny is a good person or not. And I know that a lot of men have been on the receiving end of women taking advantage of a system that is built for them to benefit them. For the longest time, society has been hardwired to believe women at the expense of male victims. But I am hopeful that this one situation, for whatever reason, will maybe be the turning point for a lot of people to actually know and actually see that women can lie, women can be the aggressors, and men themselves can, yes, actually be victims. And ever the optimistic pessimist, I am hopeful that this can help a lot of people see the men around them differently, and maybe this could be a potential turning point for society in general. Of course, I will be interested to see what happens as this case progresses, because we have like 6 weeks left of this, and obviously it's very clear at this point that Amber and her behavior has been hideous, and she has absolutely 100% been complicit in the domestic violence in her relationship. Now, before I open the floor to all of you, this is just a reminder that you can check out Established Titles using the link in the description. They're having a massive Mother's Day sale, but at the same time, when you use my code, you can get 10% off your entire order. Now, I open the floor to all of you. What do you all think? Do you, similarly to me, think that this situation might be a turning point for some people and how they conceptualize domestic violence and victims of domestic violence? Do you think that this whole situation with Johnny Depp is going to go in his favor? Do you think that Amber Heard is in the right and that she's actually a victim in this case? And what do you generally make of this issue overall? As always, if you like the video, hit subscribe and the thumbs up button. If you want to leave a comment, feel free to do so. Just be respectful about it. And I will see you guys next time.